Suprememagus, Chapter 21, Revelations. After those words, Orpal fell to his knees. His world was crumbling beneath his feet. All he knew, all he had planned and dreamed about, had disappeared in the space of a single word: disown. It meant that he was dishonorably banished from his own family, leaving him with nothing he could call as his own. He had just become a nameless, penniless orphan. When the parents of other boys arrived, things escalated quickly. Seeing their boys broken and unconscious in a foreign house, stinking of their own feces and urine, they demanded for an explanation. They were all long-time friends, so it was easy for us, making them calm down enough to have a civil conversation. "You," ordered Raz, the nameless one. "Explain what you did." Despite being still shocked, he was already angry enough to return to his old self. "If I must go down, I'll bring them with me. We all share the same destiny, so I won't be alone. I refuse to be only one who has to pay for this," he thought. The nameless one confessed that he had always hated his brother and how he had planned to teach him discipline and respect with the help of his friends. When he had finished, everyone in the room was appalled, refusing to believe those words. They had always known Orpal as a good, kind young man. "Lit, can you tell us what exactly happened here?" Lit acted like he was reluctant to leave his mother's embrace. After a dramatic moment of pause, he stepped forward. He made sure of limping and holding his left arm while wincing with pain at every step. "As you all know, my family has a lot of expenses and my sister is ill. So, since I am quite talented in charm magic, Celia pays me to clean her house too. I give the money to my parents to help them make ends meet." I have carefully picked the words for this speech, Lee thought. If they don't feel pity and compassion for a beaten-up 5-year-old after this sob story, these guys are full-blown psychos. Today, Miss Celia is out of town, so I was alone in here when your sons suddenly barged in and started beating me. He held out his arms, turning around, let them see how beaten he was. I tried to defend myself, like my dad taught me, but they were too big and too strong. Lit started sobbing again. I had to use magic to defend myself. I was so scared. I really thought I was going to die. He returned between Elena's embrace, weeping nonstop. "Poor kid," says Bronan, Rizal's father, picking up the wooden stick from his son's hand. "This piece of trash even dared using his grandfather's only memento. Elena, Raz, Lit, I offer you my most sincere apologies. I have failed as a man and as a father. To raise such a snake in the grass. Whatever is your decision, I will comply without questions. But first..." Bronan splashed Rizal's face with a bucket of dirty water to get him conscious. He needed to hear the truth from his own son. He still could not fully believe even his own eyes. "Dad? What are you doing here?" Rizal held his chin that was throbbing with pain when he suddenly recalled what had happened. All the eyes were on him, including Lit's. The same cold eyes, glowing with blue energy Lit had before unleashing lightnings. "I make the questions, young man, And if you don't want another beating or worse, you better tell the truth. What in the God's name were you all doing here? Terrified by both his fathers and his tormentor, Rizel could only say the truth. One after the other, the 4 remaining boys were woken up and forced to tell the whole story. One of them tried to expose Lid's torture, but his father made him shut up with a strong slap in the face. 5 against a little kid, and you have the gall to blame him for going all out? Our families are friends for generations. Your actions dishonor us all. When we get back home, I will show you what real torture is. What a moron, Lid laughed inwardly. Their credibility is less than 0. They can tell whatever they want. It will only appear as pathetic excuses of a criminal caught red-handed. Raz, what do you want us to do? Bronan asked. I am going to disown Orpal and then report all of them for attempted murder. I won't ask anything from you. We all know how hard it is being a parent, especially in moments like this. I just wanted you to hear it from me before I go to the village chief. I will not disown my son, not yet at least, Bronan said. But I can promise you that I will do nothing to defend him in any way from the consequences of his actions. And when he will be back home, I will make sure that he will never have the opportunity to harm your family again. So they all went to Lutia, where the village chief listened to the 6 boys' confession before pronouncing the sentence. After hearing all the facts and testimony, I hereby sentence the 6 of you to 4 hours of pillory, where you will be shaved of all your hair and whipped 10 times for your crimes. After that, you will spend 3 days in jail to reconsider your actions. Any objections? All those present shook their heads. I have a question, Lid said. For me or for the prisoners, young men? For them. Can I? But of course, ask them whatever you want. Lid nodded and moved in front of Rizel. Did Tryon know? Of course he did, Orpal screamed. He's always stood by my side, unlike you, Leech. Lid ignored him. Did he? No. Rizel looked at Orpal with eyes filled with disgust. We planned everything when we were alone. Orpal said that he did not trust Tryon enough, that Tryon is a spineless coward, and that he feared that he could rat us out. Thanks. Lee then spoke to the village chief again. Could you please reduce his sentence? His sincerity helps my whole family. It cleans our doubts and my brother's name as well. But of course, if the victim asks for mercy, how could I possibly refuse? Rizel will only receive 5 lashes, and after the pillory time has passed, his family is free to bring him home. Is that okay for you? Lid nodded, and Bronan shook Lid's hand while his wife was weeping with joy. Thanks, Lid. That means a lot for my poor Lisa. I will not forget your kindness. I'm sure you'll become a great man, just like your father. Lid was completely satisfied with that outcome. I didn't know that disowning a son, especially the firstborn, was possible. Everything went better than I imagined. Orpal's friends can wait to get some alone time in jail with him, and once his sentence is over, he is doomed. Either someone from the village adopts him, something that I find hard to believe, or he will be deported to the nearest orphanage. I hoped to get rid of Tryon too, but maybe That's for the best. I don't think my parents can bear losing two sons at once. And between their happiness and getting even with that idiot, they come first by a landslide. The following days were really hard for Roz, Elena, and Tryon. The couple needed quite some time before overcoming their grief. It was really hard for them to accept that the kind and bright boy that they brought up for almost 12 years was gone forever. Even worse, they started to suspect that the Orpal they knew never really existed. Thinking back about all the bad things he did and said over the years, he might as well have been deceiving them all along. Tryon was the one having the hardest time. He had lost his favorite siblings and his family's trust at the same time. Despite Rizzle had cleared his name, the suspicions remain. How could he have been so close to Urpal and yet never noticing anything? I can't blame them. In their shoes, I too would think of me as either a liar or a complete idiot. Tryon didn't know if to laugh or cry. Lid, Eliza, and Tista, instead, were having the time of their life, even if they did their best to avoid their parents to notice. They would get more food and better clothes. And they did not have to tolerate Orpal's mean words and petty jokes anymore. Plus, there were all the gifts that 5 families sent them as an apology. Both the girls had stopped considering Orpal as a brother from the day he had proposed to get rid of Tista, calling her a cripple. Lid was above and beyond them. He never considered him his brother. His only worry was for his parents, so he tried to lessen their burden as much as he could. Lid's magic was now strong enough that he could till and plow the fields with earth magic. He could also hunt for much bigger prey. His aim set to deer, boars, and bear, whose pelt could be sold for a pretty penny. This time, for the spring festival was nearing, and Lid wanted some extra pocket money to buy something nice for his parents and sisters. Tryon was still a stranger to him. The spring festival was held mid-spring, during the equinox, to celebrate the time when the light finally overcome the darkness and cold of the winter. Lid was happily playing around the Tron woods, looking for the best opportunity to kill a huge boar. Damn it, its neck and skin are too thick to break with my current level of spirit magic. Fire and thunder could easily put it down, but that would mean damaging either the pelt or the meat. I need to get creative. The boar movements were easy to predict, since it would always charge in a straight line. By using air fusion, Lid's body was fast enough to dodge the charges with ease, as long as he managed to prevent the beast from coming too close. When an ox went mad, my father told me that the best way to put it down is to strike at the legs instead of the head. Once you take away their mobility, beasts like this one are easy prey. At the next charge, Lid conjured a thick layer of ice before dodging. When the boar stepped on it, it lost its footing, spinning on itself like a top. The boar crashed against the huge rock Lid had aligned it with, its bones snapping on impact. Lid closed in enough to not miss his next shot, but always keeping a safe distance. A cornered prey is the most dangerous one. Always respect the prey. Never underestimate it. It only needs one hit to kill you. Lid remembered Celia's teachings. Lid made a finger gun aligning it with his target before shooting a nice arrow that penetrated in the boar's right eye, puncturing its brain. The beast collapsed on the ground, but Lid shot another arrow in the left eye too, just to be on the safe side. Okay, that is dead. Now the problem is, how the heck do I carry it out of the woods? My spirit magic may not be enough to carry a several hundred kilograms dead animal all the way until Celia's house. And even if I actually manage to do it, how can I explain it? Lid was nervously tapping with a finger on a nearby tree, trying to find a solution before having to fight to defend his game, when the dead animal suddenly disappeared. What? Since when do boars vanish into thin air? Who's there? He promptly activated live vision, scanning the surroundings in the search of an enemy. But the only living being he could find were small birds and rodents. Okay, this is getting creepy. But I need to get my boar back. The boar appeared back, very close to Lid, making him jump away in fright. Why are you messing with me? Who are you? Lid screamed while checking out the best escape route. An invisible enemy could easily kill me. Screw the boar, I need to get out of here fast, he thought. There is no need to escape. A gentle feminine voice replied in his mind. I'm not your enemy, my host. Okay, if you want to scare me, you're doing a great job. What do you mean with host? Where the heck are you? Lid kept looking around. The enemy somehow was untraceable, even by his magical senses. Stop looking around, host. I'm here where you put me, around your neck. Lid instinctively grabbed the pouch and threw it away. He could finally notice that both the life force and the mana flow of the stone were bigger than ever. Lid had always kept it in a blind spot, and since it was useless, he forgot to check it with live vision since the day of the ambush. Okay, I hate riddles. Tell me who or what you are, or I'll leave. As much as it pains me losing such a game, it's not worth having a creepy, mysterious stone talking in my head. Please don't. The voice turned desperate. I'll die without my host. Enough with the riddles, Lid screamed out loud. Who are you? What are you? Our minds are linked. It's easier to show rather than tell. Suddenly, Lid's mind was filled with images and memories that were not his own. He could have thought of having been teleported away if the images weren't full of holes, allowing to still see parts of the woods through them. I'm sorry, but my powers are almost depleted. This is the best I can do. Lid could see a giant tower whose vault was no deep to reach the bottom of the ocean. Too deep, its top so high to touch the sky. He could perceive that the whole structure was the giant magical artifact pulsing with mana. At some point, the owner of the tower had died, and without her mana to nourish its core, the tower began to decline. Centuries has passed, while the tower kept looking for its next host, using illusions to send away those it deemed not talented enough or unworthy. Over time, the tower spent all his powers, and to avoid that, it had been forced to an extreme sacrifice. To prolong its existence, it started to consume its own walls, floors, everything within itself, even its memories. More centuries had passed. Now, only the tower core was left, barely the size of a pebble. It had nothing left except its sense of self. Preferring that rather than becoming a mindless tool, The tower core attempted a desperate gamble. It sent a signal that any being with the bare minimum of magical powers to sustain its life could perceive. The clock was ticking. Every second that passed, the tower core could feel its life slipping away. When the one answering the call resulted to be a Rai, the tower core had tried to communicate with no results. The beast mind was too different from the first host, making the mind link impossible. Hope was lost. The tower could only wait for its end. But then a savior arrived, saving the tower core from the beast's maw, using his own blood to bound himself with the tower core right before it fell into a deep slumber to recover from its wounds. The images disappeared, leaving Lit alone with the pouch and the dead boar. Lit's mind was overwhelmed, incapable of any thought outside stupid jokes. Does that make us married or what? Suprememagus, Chapter 22. Why do you say that? Well, back on my world, being bonded for life with someone you would not have any intimacy was the joke definition of marriage. That's funny, the voice chuckled, and also kind of sad. Never mind the jokes. Let me get this straight. You once were a mighty artifact, full of treasures and knowledge. But now everything you had and knew is lost, and you are diminished to the size of a marble. Am I missing something? No, all your statements are correct. Also, you did not pick me because of my talent or virtue, but simply because I possess, and I quote, the bare minimum magical powers to sustain your life. That makes me nothing more than an off-brand life support system. That is not exact. I am now bonded with you until your death do us apart. That sounds more and more like marriage, Lit grunted. I am no parasite. You can see me as a symbiote. We will both benefit from our relationship. How? Are you saying that if you manage to get your strength back, you will also recover your memories and magical artifacts? No, those are lost forever. I'm just like you. When you grow up, can you spit back the food you have eaten in the past to pass it on someone else? No, the same applies to me. Then what's in for me? The pleasure of your company? At the moment, all I can offer you is a pocket dimension. Say what? One moment, I'm looking at your memories to make it easier to understand. It works like a dungeons and looting bag of keeping. That's interesting, Lit pondered. An interdimensional space where I can store my stuff without being hindered by its weight. How big is this pocket dimension? 10 cubic meters big. It can store anything that amounts up to such volume, no matter the weight, as long as it's something inanimated. A cruel intuition flashed in Lit's eyes. Can it also store things like lightnings, fireballs, or incoming arrows? If so, it would be an invaluable tool for both offense and defense. No, the voice killed Lit's hope. The pocket dimension is outside space and time, so it rejects both life and kinetic energy. Feeling its host disappointed, the voice added quickly. This also means that whatever you store will not rot, cool down, or warm up. A roasted blinker would be kept hot and tasty, frozen in the moment you finish cooking it. That barely qualifies as a silver lining. Despite their chat was quite long, it was only happening inside their mind. Barely a second had passed after Lit had accessed the stone's memories. Whatever. At least you saved me from my current predicament. Now, I know how to bring the boar back. I just need a decent excuse to explain how I manage it. The stone mind shrugged. Keep it simple. Drop it to the edge of the woods. And tell Celia that you managed to kite it to that spot before killing it. It should be easier to believe than the truth. Lit nodded. Resourceful and smart. The fact that our minds are linked still creeps me out. But thanks to that, I can see you have no malice or hidden agenda towards me. If you really are what you say to be, I'll keep you. True loyalty is a rare commodity to turn it down when you find it. So, until I am convinced of your good faith, consider yourself on probation. Lit put the pouch back at his neck and the bore in the pocket dimension. By the way, I can keep calling you and Stone. Don't you have a name? No. The voice sounded really sad. It's lost, like everything else. Don't be a pouter. A name is just a name. You can call me Derek, Lit, Hoss, whatever. I'll always be the same cynic, misanthropic, lying, cutthroat guy I have always been. Would you like me to name you? Yes, please. Lit had it ready since he heard the Tower's core story. You are supposed to be a great artifact, so I'll name you after the greatest, albeit fictional, magical forge master that I always admired when I was a kid. Solus. Thank you, Lit. I like how it sounds, and I really appreciate you naming me after someone you love, rather than give me a pet name like Happy or Lucky. Lit had the odd feeling Solus was mind-blushing. They spent all the time on the way back chatting. Lit was really interested in understanding the limits and the use of his new partner's skill set. After assessing that both Lit and Solus could activate the pocket dimension, he proceeded to pick the right spot. It needed to be close enough to the edge of the woods and cover enough to make spotting the boar from a distance impossible. There are countless things that can go wrong leaving a dead animal alone, even for a few minutes. A passerby that can claim its kill, a scavenger believing to have lucked out a free meal. Take your pick. With my luck, I never trust the odds. You trust no one. Solus turned to a flat tone. You bet. That's life from rule number 1. Rule number 2 is no good deed goes unpunished. It then used earth and wind magic to mess up the surroundings, mimicking the signs of a struggle left by his previous fight with the boar. Bah, all this effort and I get such a sloppy result. If Celia throws a second glance at this scene, she'll expose my lie. I can only hope the prize catches her eyes enough not to make any questions. He then gently dropped the pouch on the ground. As soon as you perceive my signal, take the boar out. I'll be back in a jiffy. Without waiting for a reply, Lit started running at a full speed towards Celia's house. Once out of their mind link range, 10 meters, Lit could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Damn it, leaving her like that. She surely knows the real reason why I did it. It's hard to accept someone else in your head, reading every single of your most embarrassing thoughts and memories. Not to mention that in Dungeons and Legends, every sentient artifact was usually a bag full of trouble, trying to mind control the owner or something. I know that is just fiction, but still, what if I just stumble in this world lone ring like in Vasily Bolkian's book? Lit shrugged his head, his body covered in cold sweat. I bet that as soon we are back together, she will have access to this inner monologue too. No pain, no gain. If she really is what she says, she's worth the risk. At least I'll have someone who finally knows the real me. A few minutes later, Celia and Lit were approaching the drop spot, riding the 2-horse cart she used to move around the heaviest goods. Is it really that big to require 2 horses? She asked skeptically. I think one should be enough to move it once it's loaded. The second is necessary to drag it on the cart easily. Once Lit and Celia jumped down the ride, he gave Solus the signal. Celia detached the horses, guiding them by the bridle. Lit took with him the thick ropes necessary to make a harness for the boar, making it easy for the horse to drag it up the woods and into the cart. When Celia saw the game with her own eyes, she whistled in approval. Good gods, this thing must be around 300 kilograms. You weren't boasted as usual. I never boast. Lit used spirit magic to steadily recover the pouch, while Celia was engrossed sizing the beast. Please, all men do. Celia clicked her tongue. You are not an exception. With all your magic and secrets, do you want me to believe you do not enjoy your short, dark, and teethless act? She added, laughing out loud. It's not my fault I have a sleep now. Lit was pissed off by her non-stop mockery of his new voice. Will you ever let me hear the end of it? I'm sorry, I really am. It's just that your tough boy attitude is even more hilarious now that you have a lips. The first time she had heard him call her Felia, she had laughed hard enough to fall from her chair, hugging her belly. Judging from its size, it was really close to become a magical beast. We could have sold it for much more sum. It's kind of sad, she sighed. Yeah, and if it was a magical beast, I would be much deader now, Lick rebuked. They kept bickering until the boar was safe and sound on the cart. Only once they got back to her house and started bleeding out the game, Celia got her business attitude back. The most valuable piece is the head. If we can find a noble willing to stuff it, hang it over his fireplace, and take the credit for the kill, we can sell it really well. The pelt and the meat are nothing special. Do you have any plans about them? Lit nodded. All this meat will allow me to skip hunting for a while, so I prefer to keep and macerate it. As for the pelt, it should make a nice carpet for my parents' bedroom. Always a family boy, huh? Celia ruffled his hair. This time there was no mockery in her voice. I'm so proud of you being so considerate towards your family that I'll tan it for free. I still get half of the head price though. Perfect. Good. Our best shot is with Count Lark himself. He is both loaded and very proud of his hunting skills. I must reach my contacts in his manor to test the waters. Finger crossed. Liz suffered at the idea of losing so much money, but half was better than nothing. He didn't know how to tan pelts or stuff heads, and lacked both time and instruments to do it. And even if he did, he had no way to sell the merchandise outside his little village. After Lit left Celia, he and Solus started chatting again, feigning ignorance about each other's feelings. Solus, I think that your help will be invaluable to bring my martial arts training to the next level. Suprememagus, Chapter 23. Heart to Heart. Until that moment, Lit martial training had been really sloppy. Despite all his efforts in a whole year of practice, he had barely managed to regain the skill level of a 4th Q Aikido. The only aspect he had managed to step up to the 3rd Q were the footwork and the fall techniques, and that because initial progression depended completely on him. Without a sparring partner, someone that could watch his moves and help him correct his mistakes, there was only so much that he could do. He could either make a mud dummy, move, or train himself. He was not at the point that he could do both at the same time. Making a rough mud doll perform human-like movements required a lot of concentration. That meant that he could only put the dummies in a position and then practice while they were once again still. Lit's body was even clumsier than his original one back on Earth. To make real progress, he needed to be hit, to be thrown around, to practice all his moves on a moving target. But Lit couldn't ask for help from anyone. How could he possibly explain that he wanted to practice alien martial art? What help could anyone give him, not even knowing the basics of the basics? That's why he usually practiced in the middle of the night. And Solus was the perfect solution for his problem. After further merging their minds, they had discovered new uses for the tower core. Lid had just to plant her into a mud doll, to turn it into a quasi-golem, finally getting his sparring partner. Solus had all the human senses and more, and with Lid's permission, she could consume his mana to perform spells he knew in his stead. Her nature was that of a magic tower. She was supposed to oversee countless floors and devices. Even in her weakened state, moving a poor excuse of a mud golem was easier than a pie. Solus further improved Lid's idea, managing to make the golem body soft at the right times before hitting or being hit. This why she was able to put enough strain on Lid's body to train it and avoid any possible injury by accident. She also had access to all his memories, including all his master's teachings. Solus was able to use those memories to correct Lid's mistakes and help him improve by leap and bounds. Thanks to invigoration, Lid was now able to stay awake for a whole month before his performances started declining, forcing him to rest. So, thanks to Solus, whenever he would meet a bottleneck, he would train martial arts. He only needed to take a short break when the fatigue became too much. Light magic would mend his muscles, making them recover and grow stronger in a matter of minutes, dissipating the accumulated lactic acid at the same time. During those moments, Lid and Solus would chat heart to heart. So, what do you plan to do in the future? Why do you put so much effort in all this training? Magic, martial arts, hunting. Why don't you stop from time to time to just smell the roses? Solus asked. Whenever I do stop, I start thinking about the future, and that scares me to death. I already know that death is a trap, forcing me to switch one hell with another. I don't want to live all my life in a small village. Just the idea is equivalent to the death penalty. Doing the same routine every day in a prison without bars, where I am forced to lie every single day, waiting to die and start all over again. I can't bear this thought. My plan is to test these body limits, get as strong as I can, so that once I reach adulthood, I will be able to explore this world and see it's worth living in it. If either this body or this world meet my expectation, I will strive all my life to find a way to prevent me passing into another world after death. How? I don't know. I'm still as ignorant as a baby about magic. All I know is its practical use. I have no idea if it's possible to create magical artifacts, but if my hypothesis is right, I could become a lich. Even better, I could find a way to bind my soul to this world so that in case of death, I would remain here, possessing the nearest available course. I hope that when push comes to shove, I will also have found a way to retain both my magic core and muscle memory. And what if both the world and your body fail you? In that case, I would not mind starting my journey once again. If I have to live a shitty life in a shitty world, might as well depart early. I'll keep moving around until I roll my 100 and get born as a perfectly healthy young master of a filthy rich family, a chosen one or whatever. It's just a matter of luck. What about your family? Are you going to abandon them like that? Tit pondered seriously about that matter. Of course not. Making them lose their son, their brother for no reason, without even giving them a body to bury, is too cruel, even for me. I'll stick around until my family needs me before checking out. Solus giggled. Don't you see? Things are not actually all black and white as you make them. When you awoke in this world, you couldn't wait to die. To reroll, as you say. Then you choose to stay for the magic. Now you are willing to continue this life for someone else's sake. Give yourself some time. The bad people you met have reinforced your bias on life, but the good people are also slowly changing you. At the beginning, you couldn't care less about Tista's life. Now, it's all you think about. You hated both Elena and Raz even before knowing them, because of issues with parental figures. They are not your parents back on Earth. This planet is not Earth. Give it a chance before doing something so extreme. How do I know you're not telling me all this only to keep your host? Easy peasy, read my mind. After checking it thrice, Lid could not find any hidden agenda or egotistical reason. Damn it, all this mind-link stuff is so irritating. I cannot get out of this argument with mistrust or doubts. It's my loss, for now at least. You are barely a month old. Life will change you. It always does. Solus giggled again. Or maybe it will change you and you will start warming up to me, and then you will have to take care of me for your whole life, hubby. Lid felt a cold chill run down his spine. Please, don't call me like that. I'm ready to go again. Don't go easy on me. I never do, Solus replied, getting on Lid's already shaken nerves. Thanks to all the exercise, Lid would quickly overcome any bottlenecks, and soon he could feel the bottled up impurities trying to find their way out again. Lid had pondered if it was the case of getting rid of the impurities in the same way he did for the rest of his family. But after discussing it with Solus, he decided not to. The purification treatment he had devised for Tista was an artificial method, and even though it gave the same benefits in the term of physical appearance and resistance to illnesses, their magic power and physical prowess never got enhanced. Lid had no idea why the impurities had to travel to the manacore before getting expelled, inflicting such excruciating pain, but it was worth the cost. It happened during one of their sparring sessions. As soon as Lid realized what was happening, he quickly undressed himself not to taint his clothes. This time, he offered no resistance, discovering that it wasn't so painful after all. Leek puked much more impurities than the last time, letting them come out of all his pores and orifices. The stench was so bad he was about to faint before managing to destroy them with dark magic. He was completely exhausted. This time, not even invigoration could replenish his energies. He needed to sleep. After a bath, I stink so bad I could raise the dead. Solus ignored the obvious remark. It's exactly as you remembered. Whatever happens to you is like a sword getting tempered and purified at the same time. Both your body and manacore had undergone qualitative changes again. I think your potential skyrocketed, promoting you from my bare minimum requirements. You still need to work hard to develop it though. And so Lid continued his routine until the day of the spring festival. Suprememagus, Chapter 24. Spring Festival. It was without a doubt the worst day of the year for Lid. He would be forced to spend a full afternoon away from home, surrounded by complete strangers and robbed of any privacy or personal space during the festivities. All the families in the village would gather for the festival, forgetting about their daily problems and miseries, since everything from decoration to food and drinks were paid by Count Lark. He would also take part in the whole event to keep his bonds with the community strong and maintain his reputation of a fair lord instead of being just a faceless guy who collected taxes, making their lives even harder. The festival was comprised of three parts. The morning would still be spent like a normal day's work to let foreign merchants and carnies prepare the stands and arrange their merchandise. In the evening, the family would gather and check out the stands, searching for trinkets and jewelry to buy with their extra money to add to their daughters' dowry. The food would mainly consist of appetizers, like fresh fruits and vegetables, with skewers of different kinds of meat and even exotic food brought by Count Lark for the occasion, like saltwater fishes and seafood. The only drinks available would be water and light beer. After the sunset, huge braziers and torches would be lit all around the village, while the count's worker would prepare the stage for the festival main event, the election of the spring maiden. All the girls 15 and 16 years old could take part in the spring maiden contest, which was more like a debutante ball rather than a beauty pageant. It was the opportunity for all the young maidens of marriageable age to show off their beauty and virtue in hope to catch the attention of as many suitors as possible. The judges of the Spring Maiden contest were always the same: Count Lark, the village chief, and Nana. After the election, the real food would be brought out, with lots of roasted animals, soups, and caramelized fruits. Both pure and watered wines would be available, raising the spirits for the finale. The last part consisted of a ball, encouraging the eligible bachelor to approach one or more maidens that may have caught their eye. Each part would affect Lid's mood differently. The first would cause extreme boredom, tempered by the fact that he was still allowed to move alone. The second was akin to torture. He would be forced to sit on his father's shoulders, staring for hours at a bunch of little girls he did not give a damn about. The third was the best one, but only because it was very short. After some dancing, his parents were too tired to remain any longer, and would finally bring him back home. None of their children was yet of marrying age, so they had no reason to linger. For the first time in his new life, Lid had some money in his pockets, so he could check out the carnival games that offered the best prizes. They cheat, I cheat. Let's play this fair and square. Using spirit magic, he won a beautiful stuffed bear for Tista, beating a ring toss game rigged by unbalanced rings. From a crossbow shoot game, he got a silver-coated hair comb for Eliza. All he needed to do was use 2 strands of spirit magic, one to guide the dart to his target, the second to force it to crumble. Last but not least, a silk ribbon for his mother from a Wheel of Fortune stand. The carnies were flabbergasted, but trying to bully a local child in front of so many villagers, not to mention Count Lark, would have earned them nothing more than the beating of a lifetime and a permanent ban from every event in the county of Lustria. They started to keep an eye on him, but Lid was not greedy and left after getting the 3 prizes. He actually wanted something for Raz too, but all they had were feminine products. The carnies hoped to lure the young boys into wasting their money, trying to impress the girls with expensive presents they could not afford without gambling. After distributing the presents, Lid searched for Nana. He wanted to have a chat about magic with an expert. He found her sitting on a bench near her house. The first thing he did was look at her with live vision. Her mana flow was way bigger than Lid's, but her life force was weaker than Tista's. Nana was over 60 years old woman, but she looked like an 80-year earth woman. Her back was so hunched that she needed a cane to walk properly. She had sharp gray eyes, a face full of wrinkles, and a big aquiline nose. Nana always wore a shawl over her head to avoid her long gray hair bothering her during work. At first look, she seemed as an inconspicuous old lady, but when you got near, You could feel the raw strength exuding from her body. Must have had a rough life, Solus commented. Hello, Nana. How are you? Lit asked politely. Hello to you, little imp. You sure are growing fast, aren't you? Just like Elena had noticed back in the winter, Tista and Lit were growing taller and slender than their peers. The same was happening to Eliza too, after she had received Lit's treatment. Lit was over 1 meter and 10 centimeter high, his shoulder broad like he played water polo. Lit nodded. Yes, I do. Can I ask you a question? As long as it's not about my age, be my guest. Nana laughed. Nana, are you a strong magician? Nana was surprised, the question not very childlike. Yes, I am. When I was still a young girl, I even got a scholarship for the prestigious Lightning Griffon Academy, and I managed to graduate without any problem. Nana straightened up proudly, remembering her years of glory. Then, how did you end up being a healer in Lutia? How tactful of you, Lit. Solus rebuked him. Children are allowed to be rude. It's one of their few privileges. Nana mood turned gloomy. You see, Lit, in this world there are commoners, nobles, and mages. A strong mage has a status par with the nobles, depending on his or her magic power. Back then, I was very strong, but not a genius. Sadly, I was also stupid and naive, so I made some very bad choices and ended up alone, without anyone backing me. I had only 2 options left, either submit to a powerful noble or living free with the status of a healer. Guess what I picked? It became gloomy too. The idea of losing everything after working so hard for it made his future look even scarier. There, kid, Nana brightened up. Let's not spoil the mood and enjoy the festival. After leaving Nana alone, Lee thought back at her words about his growth and stopped in front of a mirror on display, watching his reflection. He could only sigh in resignation. No matter how many impurities I expel, I managed to fail even at the gene pool lottery. I took so much from my dad and so little from my mom. When I look at myself while brooding rather than cool, I like some kind of psycho kid escapee from juvie. If I smile, now that I miss so many teeth, I am not even cute. Even all dressed up, I could barely pass for a street urchin from one of Dickens' novels. Solus tried to brighten him up, but to no avail. Later in the evening, Count Lark introduced to the village elders his guest of honor. Chief Urok, Sage Nana, allow me to introduce you to the young Ricker Trahan, son of my dear friend Baronet Locker Traham. This young lad is a really talented magician that in the future will be glory to our country. Count Lark was a magic enthusiast, always trying to sponsor promising youths from his land. Nice to meet you, young man. The village chief saluted him with a polite bow, expecting the other to offer his hand or at least reply to the bow. Ricker instead kept looking around, his eyes filled with contempt. The pleasure is mine, he replied with a cold tone. Ricker, where are your manners? Count Lark rebuked him mildly. Sage Nana was a powerful and renowned magician in her youth. Feel free to ask her for advice. Her experience could prove invaluable to overcome any difficulty you may encounter during your studies. I have no doubt about that, my lord, Ricker bowed this time, but to Count Lark. Nana has seen enough nobles in her life to recognize the type. A high and mighty young master, pampered enough to believe that only nobles could achieve greatness. The people of the village were having a hard time tolerating so much disrespect towards their elders, but for the count's sake they limited themselves to angry whispers. "Oh, oh, you got yourself another spunky one, dear Lark." Nana laughed without any warmth. Ricker shuddered at such lack of respect. The old bat calling the count by his first name without honorifics. But he knew that Lark was a sucker for magicians, and judging from her attitude, he had granted that old bat the right to do so. "He has every right to be proud, dear Nana. Next year he will turn 12 and apply for Lightning Griffon Academy scholarship. And, with a little luck, he will enroll just like you did back in the day." Ricker failed to repress his amazement, knitting his eyebrows at Nana. "By the gods, how could such a commoner get admitted into the academy?" he thought. "She must have cheated her way in, no doubt." "Really?" replied Nana with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Why don't you ask him to show us what he's capable of?" Count Lark gladly accepted, and per his request soon was set 1-meter-high stump with a head of lettuce on its top. Ricker had to stay at least 10 meters away from it and knock it down. It was a very basic exercise for anyone who wanted to become a magician, often used to quickly get rid of unworthy candidates. Only those with real talent for magic were able to use charm magic at such range. For normal people, magic had a range of meter or two. To learn something outside charm magic, one had to either enroll in a magic academy or buy very expensive books. "Young man, do your best." Count Lark's voice was full of enthusiasm. Ricker had done that exercise countless times, but always alone. This time, he was surrounded by commoners, clearly hoping to watch him fail and get the chance to ridicule him. Even worse, Count Lark was putting a lot of pressure on him. In Ricker's eyes, this wasn't a simple test, but a matter of life and death. Feeling countless eyes on him, he lost his concentration while performing the hand signs and stuttered the magic word, "Infero." He produced a chestnut-big fireball that almost missed the lettuce. Yet, with a small boom, the head of lettuce got knocked off. No one applauded except for Count Lark. "More than one, that's it," could be heard among the crowd. Nana walked slowly to the vegetable, bringing it back for Count to examine it. He missed a few key hand signs, stuttered the magic word, and missed the lettuce entirely. It only got knocked off because of the explosion. Nana remarked coldly. "I would not keep my hopes up, Lark. When I was his age, I was able to actually hit my target without performing signs nor using magic words. They admitted me only because of my perfect silent magic." Nana's gray eyes were staring at Ricker in contempt. "Well, he is still young. That's why I brought him to you. He has another full year to prepare for the exam. There is still time to fix the small mistakes. I was hoping you could mentor him." "I would be glad, I really would, but between the villagers and my disciple, I already have my hands full. I'm too old to take care of two youths, and my apprentice takes precedence. As you know, a magician's word is her bond." "You have an apprentice?" Count Lark was shocked No one had informed him about such a critical matter. Yes, she nodded, smiling in Ricker's face. He learned to read and write at the age of 3, and by that time he had already learned charm magic all by himself. Marvelous! Count Lark's excitement was a slap in Ricker's face. Yeah, and he's also my disciple. Celia stepped forward, adding fuel to the fire. She and Nana politely detested each other, but between her and a stuck-up obnoxious brat, she would always choose the devil she knew. He hunts in the Tron Woods from the age of 4. Even he can only hunt blinkers and critters. He will never miss a moving target, let alone some deadweight lettuce. She then whispered to the Count's ear, "He is actually the you-know-who that provided the you-know-what." "Fantastic! Excellent! When can I meet him?" His monocle jumped off his eye orbit from the happiness. Ricker was on the verge of exploding out of anger. "Can't he see? They are just leading him by the nose. How can someone with such a high social status like the Count trust even one word from these commoners? Lying and cheating is in their nature. They are just trash, trying to stoop up as their level to make themselves feel better about their pathetic lives. If that old bat is a magician, then I am the crown prince. Why do I have to bear with all her nonsense? And how come even a god-stinking hunter can freely speak to a count? This evening could not turn any worse. How the heck I managed to let my father convince me to come to this pigsty? Here he is, Bronan shouted triumphantly, forcefully dragging Lit by his arm. He had no idea what was happening. Lit was with his family, nibbling at a caramelized apple, when Bronan appeared out of the blue, babbling about the village honor or something. Too many eyes were on him. Lit's intuition told him that something was wrong, so he decided to play it close to the vest. "Count Lark, I'm honored to meet you." It didn't take a genius to understand that the overdressed beanpole with the monocle had to be the lord of the land. Lit greeted him, cupping his fist, performing a deep bow. He then proceeded greeting the village chief, Nana, and Celia, making his bow deep according to the respect they deserved. Lastly, he turned towards the ill-looking kid standing next to the Count. He had to be around 10 years old, 1 meters and 40 centimeters high. He was wearing a silk white shirt over high-end leather pants. His face was all red and sweaty, like he had either run for his life or been bitten by a venomous snake. The situation made no sense to Lit, but since no one seemed worried about the kid's health, Lit did what he was supposed to. "Greetings, honorable guest. I hope you enjoy your visit in our village." Lit cupped his fist again, making only a small bow. He had no idea who that kid was, and Ricker could not find the strength to introduce himself. The Count seemed to have completely forgot about his existence. Oh, Nana laughed. "See, Lark? Manners. That's something so many youngsters lack nowadays." Lit kept looking around, waiting for someone to explain what was happening. "Can I be of assistance?" he asked. Ricker once again needed all his willpower to prevent himself from throwing a fit of rage. "This is their prodigy, a toothless bum. I should ask the Count to whip them all to their death for their blatant lies. Simply outrageous." "Yes, Lit," Celia stepped in again. "Count Lark loves magic in all its kind and forms, and I was just telling him about how you kill blinkers without ruining even a feather. Would you mind to show him?" She took out a wooden stick, holding it up for the Count and everyone else. Lit sighed with relief. All this fuss for charm magic? They almost gave me a heart attack. If it's just to entertain some bored nobles, why not? If the village thrives, so will my family. Brezza, after twirling twice his middle and medium finger, a small vortex enveloped the stick. Outwardly, it was just like the ones every housewife used daily to clean their house. But looking it closely, one could notice that it was actually two different vortexes, one spinning clockwise and the other counterclockwise. This way, the spell applied a huge strain to the stick in the point where the two vortexes connected, causing it to break almost instantly. It had invented it after Celia had started bothering him too much about how he killed the blinkers. He could not show her spirit magic, so he came up with this trick. Rick wanted to reboot, saying that lead was barely a meter away from the stick, but even he knew how hard it was to use two different spells at the same time. He also knew that such an objection would be met by the old bat requesting him to do the same, and he had no idea how to. Nana waved her hand, and a villager put another head of lettuce on the stump. Lit, be a dear, and knock that out, please. Lit was getting more and more confused. The Count now had stars in his eyes, looking at him like some mythical beast that had descended from the heavens, while the noble kid was pale as a ghost. What the heck is going on here? Why the Count is so engrossed by cheap magic, and no one cares about that poor kid. Whatever he has is getting worse. Lit shrugged before flickering his middle finger while saying, "Jurn." A nice dart hit the lettuce head center, making it roll a few meters away. "Without using hand signs?" The Count gasped, his voice so faint that Lit could not hear him. "One last thing, dear Lit. If you manage to indulge this poor lady, I will treat you and your family for free until you start your apprenticeship. Are you willing to humor me one last time?" Lit had no need to think before accepting. Despite his best efforts, Dista still needed constant care. From time to time, they still had to seek for Nana's help, and it wasn't cheap. Nana smiled, full of confidence enough for the both of them. "Bronan, toss one of those as high as you can." Bronan threw a head of lettuce with a lob shot, sending it about 3 meters high. When it reached its peak, Nana made a simple gesture of cutting it horizontally with her extended hand and fingers, conjuring 10 ice darts. 5 struck its left side, 5 the right side. When the head of lettuce started falling, Nana cut the air again, this time vertically, splitting it evenly in 4 parts. Then she simply opened her palm towards the sky, conjuring 4 small vortexes that brought down the 4 pieces slowly. Damn, not only Nana Mana's flow is still superior to mine, but her skill level is above and beyond my expectation. I could probably achieve the same result, but I'd need both hands and something more than just a casual wave of hand. Now I understand why everyone in the village holds her in such high regard. She is likely to be the reason why the village of Lutia is so peaceful. If she can do so much with a simple charm magic, I can imagine what she can do with a real spell, Lee thought. Now it's your turn, Bronan. Another head of lettuce, another lob shot. Lit knew it wasn't a contest. He wasn't supposed to perform as good as Nana. Until Lit could get a clear picture of how much talent was considered good, how much to be considered a genius level, and how much for the burn that monster label, he had to play it safe. When the shot reached his peak, Lit made hand sign with both hands shooting Jorun, conjuring 4 ice darts, 2 per side. When the lettuce started to fall, he used Breza to cut it evenly in half, using it again to summon 2 vortex to bring the pieces down. Once again, they were rotating in opposite directions, the phenomenon highlighted by the slowly spinning lettuce. In for a penny, in for a pound. They already know I can do it. If I have to entertain the count, I as well do it with a little swag. The crowd exploded into applause, soon joined by an ecstatic Count Lark, that still could not believe his own eyes. Nana sent Lit away to his parents, reassuring him that she would keep her side of the bargain, before speaking again to Ricker Trahan. And that, young man, is what real talent for magic looks like. Ricker could not hear her though. Back when Nana had showed her skill, he had fainted standing up. His mind could not accept that all the certainties he had grew up with had proven to be nothing more than convenient lies. Suprememagus, Chapter 25, Ambush. After the end of the spring festival, nothing major happened, and Lit's life returned to his usual routine. Solus proved to be an invaluable help for his magical training. Despite having lost all her past knowledge and being quite naive in the ways of life, she was by far the brighter of the two. Solus was not limited to the human's 5 senses, but actually had 12. Solus was certain that by regaining her powers, she would be able to awaken even more. Solus' sense of mana helped Lit to better understand the law of magic that determined the innate talent and the mana capacity. Her mana senses was similar to Lit's life vision, but much more profound and accurate. Solus could see the mana flowing even from blades of grass or pebbles. When looking at someone, she was immediately able to grasp their magic talent. Even more important, she was able to use her mana sense even on Lit's memories. According to Solus, all the information needed for the mana senses were also contained in the visible spectrum, but the humans lacked the means to interpret them. When you were on Earth, you had no manacore. Your native world had basically no mana at all. The same thing happened on the alien spaceship, but when you were born here, you started with a very little broad red manacore. By absorbing and processing the world energy with your breathing technique, you managed to develop it from red to orange. 4 years of unrelenting practice just to promote it to the next rank? Lit was quite depressed by the news. Not quite. Your mana core also keeps changing and developing as you grow up, and this happens to everyone else. At the moment of your birth, this mana core was already filled poppy red and turned brighter every year. Right now, it's light orange, and it would not surprise me if after her final growth spurt, it turned yellow or even green. She seems to be fairly talented for magic. And that where does it leave me? Lit kept feeling worse about himself. Am I really a complete failure in everything? Looks, talent, can't I do one thing right? Stop moping around and listen to me. You keep forgetting that you are 2 years younger, and I have no idea if males and females develop their mana cores at different rates. Also, you're constantly skipping steps makes harder for me to understand what your base talent is. After every cycle of expansion and compression, your mana core would turn one shader brighter. Every time you expel impurities from your mana core, it skips to the next level. right now is deep green. Is it me, or this manacore strength seems to be somehow related to the light spectrum? Lit pondered. A prism can break down white light in its basic components: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple. Agreed, Sola's mind nodded. But it could also somehow be related to fire. Flames follow the same principle. A yellow star is colder than green one, and so on. Our real question is the final step for a manacore to turn purple or white? Lift shook his head. I'm starting to get a head-splitting headache. We'll face this like I did for college back on Earth, one exam session at a time. Even back there, if I started to think about all the exams that I had to pass to get my degree, only to start right back for my master, I would go into a deep depression. The memory made him shudder. So let's focus on the present. I'm deep green. What about Nana? She is the only person with light cyan manacore. To be born with such a talent, she is really impressive. Is there anyone else talented in the village? Lid had to be aware of the possible competition. No, the Yale kid Count Lark brought along had a bright yellow manacore, but I don't think he lives close by. Lid sighed. All that information overwhelming him. For so many years he had deluded himself into thinking he was special, stronger than anyone else. Now he felt like the proverbial frog in the well, finally discovering the vastness of the sea. Enough moping around. Let's roll up our sleeves and work hard. Nothing that's worth having comes easy. Lid and Solus kept practicing together for the whole year, growing closer and closer like fraternal twins. Lid's birthday was on fall, but all major activities in the village would be suspended until the next spring. Since Nana's offer was to replace the 2 years public school with apprenticeship, Lid too had to wait until spring to begin his magical education. In the late winter, the weather cleared, and the trades between the villages and the farmhouse became more and more frequent. Thanks to this, Nana was able to let Lit know the date she had set for starting his apprenticeship, entrusting the message to one of his neighbors that had come to her to heal a nasty wind, suffering while repairing the roof. When the day came, Lit woke up early, determined to keep his routine of cleaning both his house and Celia's before going to the village. The huntress had done so much for him that Lit considered her as an aunt. A stinging, nagging one that would make rip-off deals, but an aunt nonetheless. That morning, the house was in turmoil. All his loved ones were so excited at the idea of having a future mage in the family to be barely able to eat their breakfast, spending all their time and energy giving him unwanted and obvious advice. Do not be late. It's better to be a little early rather than late. Be obedient and respectful. Nana is giving you a great chance. The reason why everyone was on edge was that despite they considered the first day to be of vital importance, he had to go to the village alone. The house was in dire need of repairs, and with Orpal gone, they needed all hands on deck to also take care of the fields and animals. Lit didn't mind it at all. It was just 30 minutes walk that he had done countless times. Raz and Alina, though, felt like they were abandoning their child in his hour of need. Lit rushed out of the house to escape from that barrage of worries. He had been very calm about the apprenticeship. It wasn't his first rodeo after all, but they have managed to make him nervous like a teenager at his first date. After finishing the chores at Celia's house and collecting his usual payment, Lid restlessly looked at the sun. Damn it, it's barely dawn, and here I was, shuddering in fear. I still have a lot of time. Lid walked briskly towards the village, hoping that at his arrival Nana would be at least up. Arriving so early to give her the wake-up call would have been quite embarrassing. When he arrived midway, Lid noticed something odd. There was a horseman standing on the side of the road. It was already unusual finding a stranger so early in the morning. But what really alarmed him was that the man wasn't moving. Whoever he was clearly on patrol. As soon as the horseman noticed Lid, he took out a silvery whistle from under his shirt, emitting a high-pitched noise. Lid kept moving forward slowly, ready to react at any moment. Soon the scout was joined by 4 other horsemen, and they started trotting towards Lid in an arrowhead formation. Lid stopped moving, many spells ready at hand. "Kid, are you Lid, son of Raz and Elena?" said the horseman on point. He was a middle-aged man with brown hair eyes. He had perfectly trimmed mustaches, and everything from his straight-up posture to his commanding tone identified him a military of some sort. Looking careful, all the horsemen had the same vibe, marching perfectly aligned. Yet they wore casual clothes, white shirts over leather hunting pants. "Isn't a little earlier to go out without the matching leather jacket?" Lid thought. "Unless, of course, they need to avoid showing any household insignia." "Who are you, mister? My mother always tells me that I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." Lid decided to stall for time while he and Solus checked their surroundings for lookouts or possible reinforcements still hiding. "I perceive only 5 human males above average physical strength, deep red manacores," Solus reported. It was the same thing Lid had determined using live vision, but 4 eyes were better than 2. "I asked the questions, kid. Are you the Lid that is supposed to start his apprenticeship today?" Lid grimaced. "Whoever sent this higher muscle knows way too much about me." "I am," Lid retorted fiercely, "and it's none of your business." "I am here to give you a friendly advice, son. Today you are feeling very ill, and it's best for you to go back home and stay in bed all day." Lid's anger started to grow, and he didn't care about hiding it. "I'm feeling perfectly fine, thank you. Now scram." The 5 men lowered their hands to the weapons hanging from their belts, the reins held tight, ready to the charge. "Last chance, kid. Turn back now. I know you have such a pretty house and such a beautiful mom, not to mention 2 gorgeous sisters. Ripe for the taking. It would be really sad if something bad happened to them." Lid released such a powerful killing intent aura that the horses took a step back, the hair on the horseman's neck suddenly standing up. "I wanted to play this nice and slow, but I changed my mind." With a sweep of his right hand, 5 wind blades struck the horse's legs, making them whine in pain while collapsing to their sides. "Now you cannot retreat anymore." The man with the mustache and his right-hand man managed to dismount with a roll, avoiding getting crushed by the failing horse. The other 3 weren't so skilled. "Kill him! Go, go! Kneel!" Lid's voice was cold. His words fell on the 2 men like boulders, making them instantly fall on their knees. Lid's spirit magic was stronger than ever, and he wasn't holding back even one bit. "What the heck, Sarge? I can't get up!" screamed the right-hand man, struggling on the ground. I never allowed you to talk or to look at me. I said kneel. Another wave, even stronger than the previous one, pushed their heads towards the ground. Despite dropping their weapons to absorb the impact with their hands, they still hit the ground so hard that they started to bleed. Much better. Now let me dispose of the garbage before resuming our talk. Lit walked over the closest horseman, still under his horse, the legs stuck and broken, making him scream and wince in pain. With a wave of the hand, turned both their heads 180 degrees. The next step, snapping like dry logs tossed into the fire. Stay away from me, monster, screamed the next in line, crying in desperation. Am I a monster? Wasn't you the one ready to burn a house full of innocents, to rape a barely 8 years old child? Without waiting for his reply, Lid clenched his fist, distorting the man's head before making it implode like a walnut. Please, it's not my fault. Have mercy. I was just following orders, said the blonde, handsome youth, trying to free his trapped leg. Just following orders? I could lecture you about the many atrocities that men like you did with such an excuse. But you see, I'm just the same. I'm just following orders too. Mine, to be precise. A firebolt struck both horse and the rider, turning them into a pyre, screaming in agony. Lit returned to the kneeling men. They were still struggling to escape his control, their faces pale as ghosts, gritting their teeth while exerting every ounce of strength. I'm sorry, Liz said with a cherubic smile, while letting them raise their head. But my puppet master spell isn't so simple. It takes more than a touch of strength than a spoonful of wishful thinking to escape from it. The two men wanted to beg for mercy, but their mouths refused to open. It was like their teeth were fused to each other. Now I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that I don't need both of you, and between the pack leader and a lackey, the choice is obvious. The good news is that I allow you to speak. Any last words? Please don't. I just married. I need the prize money from my lord. My wife is expecting a child. I could not allow to lose my position. Lit emitted a cruel, joyless laugh. We all have to agree to disagree. You say wife, yet all I can hear is widow. Lit put his left hand on the man's head, turning it into a block of ice. It fell to the ground, shattering into countless of shards of bones, skin, and brain matter. The man with the mustache started to puke uncontrollably, but his mouth was still tight shut. Some barf managed to escape from his nose. The rest he was forced to gulp it down over and over to avoid choking. Lit raised his hand, making the man with the mustache float in midair upside down so that he could watch him straight in the eyes. And now, you have only two choices. You can tell me what I want and die without suffering too much, or you can keep resisting, suffering through unimaginable pain and agony before telling me what I want to know. You have free will, after all. Suprememagus, Chapter 26. At those words, the man stilled his resolve, recovering the courage worthy of a soldier that had looked death in the eyes many times on the battlefield. When it allowed him to speak, he wasn't afraid anymore. I'm a knight. My honor lies with my lord. I will never betray his trust, you filthy mongrel. Oh my, you're so helpful. Thanks to your friend there, I already knew there is a lord behind the ambush, but I thought you were just mercenaries. Are you telling me you are actual knights? Maybe his personal guard? Realizing his mistake, the knight bit his tongue, literally trying to die before letting anything else slip out his mouth. Tsk, not so fast. Lit froze him in place again, forcing the teeth away from the tongue before healing it with light magic. You are way dumber than you look. Lit never stopped smiling, talking to him with a calm and collected manner like a mother would use with a small child. I'll spell it out for you. Not even that can save you from me. I can take you apart, piece by piece, and then put you back together like the flesh puppet you are. Lit's eye lost any trace of humanity. His voice exuded only hatred and rage. But if it's pain that you want, I can give you plenty. Lit clenched his fist, and suddenly the knight felt his nether region squeezed and crushed into a vise. The knight's eye filled with tears. His mouth was only able to emit gargling sounds. Lit would release his grip from time to time, giving him some rest, before twisting and turning his hand and saw the knight's intimate parts. Are you ready to talk? The knight was still in so much pain he could barely understand his words. No, not a problem. I just wanted to test my new and improved plague arrow. After a bolt of darkness hit the knight in the chest, Lit released him from the puppet master grip, letting him sprawl on the ground. 1. Before the knight could start looking for his weapon, he found himself shivering in cold, while his teeth were rattling uncontrollably. 2. He ended up curling up, hugging himself, trying to find some precious warmth. 3. Suddenly, the cold was gone. The knight started sweating bullets. He felt terribly hot, like when he had been forced to stay on guard for hours under the scorching summer sun. 4. 5. He felt suffocating, so he tore away his shirt, gasping for air. The knight's throat was so parched that he started gulping down handfuls of snow, thanking the gods for its fresh relief. 6. 7. Then it was like his blood had started flowing in reverse. All his body was cursing with pain. The whole world had become the knight's enemy. The ground hurt his skin, the snow his throat, the light his eyes. There was no safe position he could find. He could only switch from one torture to another. 8. 9. The knight's veins were full of poison. His own saliva tasted like acid. The knight started to puke uncontrollably until nothing but bile remained inside his intestines. And 10. Ready to talk now? Lit dispelled the plague arrow using light magic. Please, no more, no more. If you waste any more hours, you'll play right into their hands. The knight was barely alive, but at least had a sliver of hope. By enduring all that torture, he now had a bargain chip. Hours? Lit laughed. I killed your soldiers in what, 3 minutes? Barely another minute had passed since you told me about your knighthood. Even rounding up that, it makes 5 minutes at worst. What hours are you talking about? The knight was shocked. That couldn't be right. He looked at the sun, searching for a proof to expose that cruel lie. But the sun was still racing over the horizon. Gods have mercy. How can all that pain and misery last a minute? It seemed hours. You really are stupid. Lit paralyzed him again. It's a minute from the moment you tried to bite your tongue off. The plague arrow lasted barely 10 seconds. Didn't you hear me counting out loud? It seems that plague arrow distorted his senses of time. Solus was studying the specimen body's reaction to the new spell. His lack of mana must have allowed the dark energy to reach his brain, altering his perceptions. Lit was on cloud 9. It was all too perfect. I'll ask you a second time. Are you ready to talk? The knight's mind broke down, forgetting all about his woes and honors. All he wanted was the pain to stop. Even death seemed alluring in comparison. So he told Lit everything about how, after being humiliated during the Spril festival, Ricker Trahan had reconsidered Nana's worth. He had understood how lacking his preparation was and had become determined on becoming her only apprentice. After taking the matter to his father, Baronet Trahan had explained to his stupid son the enormity of his mistake. Nana held a huge grudge against nobles, and since they had started off in the worst possible way, begging or bribing her would be useless. The only option available was to remove the competitor out of the picture, hoping that Nana would be willing to replace one pupil with another more reliable. The reason why they ambushed Lit was the same that prevented Baronet Trackham from coercing Nana to do his bidding. He could not afford to make her angry. Otherwise, the whole Trackham household would be wiped out. Despite Nana's fallen status in the Mage Association, stripping her of her most privileges and authority, she was still a member nonetheless. In the County of Lustria, she held an authority equal, if not superior, to that of Count Lark himself, and that meant that she was free to execute lesser nobles like them on a whim. Nana would not even need to justify herself for such an action, just explaining her reasons to the association by writing a letter, a mere formality. That was why Baronet Trahan had sent his personal guard on an undercover mission. He had stressed countless times the importance of not creating a fuss. Nana should never come to suspect anything. Their orders were to make Lit drop off from his apprenticeship by intimidating and threatening him. If none of the above worked, their job was to make him disappear without leaving a trace. During the spring festival, Nana told me that powerful magicians are like nobles, but I never expected that she actually was such a terrifying existence. Seems like my choice of becoming a mage had much more ramification than I had imagined. Status of a noble, even a freaking mage association, all this stuff is giving me a headache. Now, what to do with this dirtbag? It was a rhetorical question, but Solus replied anyway. Disposing of the bodies would backfire on us. If we want to make this baronet pay, we need the bodies and some proof that links him to the ambush. Lit mine nodded. My same thought exactly. Last question. Where are the leather jackets with the Trahan family crest? We've left them at home. We could not allow anyone to notice us. It would mean implicating the baronet." The knight was terrified. Lee's eyes were turning black, glowing with dark energy. "Wait! The whistles! We brought along the silver hunting whistles the baronet gifted us when we swore our alliance to him. They bear his family crest too." "Thanks, a deal is a deal." Lit double-tapped the knight's head with ice arrows, killing him painlessly. He then collected all the whistles from the dead bodies, taking care of erasing the trace of his spirit magic. Those twisted necks and imploded heads could raise too much questions. Let's cover our traces. I simply need to cut off the former and freeze the latter. After that, Lit used air fusion to rush towards the village. Being forced to wake up Nana was now the last of his worries. He wanted revenge. Air fusion allowed him to reach a speed of 60 kilometers per hour, so he arrived in less than 2 minutes. But once at the village outskirts, he had to cancel the spell. "I can't allow anyone to see the fastest kid alive. Damn, I want those books so bad. I need to know if spirit and fusion magic are of public knowledge or still unknown. I can't risk exposing my asses in the hall unless it's a matter of life and death." Lit kept running until he could spot Nana's house on the distance, and when he saw a luxurious stagecoach right in front of her door, he pushed the pedal to the metal. "Lady Nereia, I beg of you, be reasonable. Consider the bigger picture." Lit could not hear from that distance, and even if he could, he was too focused closing in to pay attention. Solus had no such problems. In the last year she had not acquired new abilities, but her senses had become much keener. A farm boy has so many things to take care of. Magic is a strict mistress that demands time and resources, all things that my dear son can provide plenty. "I'm sorry, dear baronet." Nana's voice was polite but devoid of any warmth. Her hands were clutching so hard on her cane to turn white. "A magician's word is her bond. I'll wait for Lit all day if necessary, and in my opinion, raw talent and a sincere disposition are much more important foundation for a magician. Things that your son is clearly lacking, or do we want to pretend that his rude words and acts during the spring festival never happened? I may be old, but my memory has yet to fail me." Ricker Trahan was pale as a ghost. So far his father's plan didn't seem to work. They had spent the last half hour in a one-sided negotiation. If everything failed, he knew that his father would skin him alive in the case he didn't manage to enroll in the Lightning Griffon Academy. Baronet Trahan had invested countless resources to give his son all the books and teacher he could afford. The idea of all that money and efforts wasted because of Ricker's arrogant ignorance while dealing with the best magician in the county was enough for the baronet to disown Ricker. Now let's not be so hasty, Lady Nereia. It's normal making mistakes when we are young. The important is to learn from them and never repeat them. I know that Ricker has quite a temper, and I apologize for his behavior. I can assure you he is terribly sorry for what he did." Ricker had never felt so humiliated. They kept talking about him like he was not there. Also, please consider that punctuality and reliability are very important when making and walking the path of magic. Yet I do not see this lit anywhere, while my son is right here. Don't you think that maybe a farm boy cannot understand the privileges you are granting him? Life in the wilds is very hard on youths. I honestly fear his parents had not the opportunity or the time to impart him a proper education. I can understand your position. You gave him your word and knew him for so long, but I can stand the idea of such an opportunity wasted on someone that cannot give you the respect you deserve. Also, I can guarantee you that if you take Ricker as your disciple, I will reward you handsomely. Not to mention that in the case he got admitted to the Lightning Griffon Academy, we will never forget your help and generosity. I am ready to commit as of now that if my son reaches the greatness he deserves, he will do anything in his power to clear your name. What do you say? Nana snorted. I would like to say many things, but it doesn't seem to be necessary. The reason why you don't see him is because you are looking in the wrong direction. Lit is the painting little imp right behind you. Suprememagus, Chapter 27, Annihilation. At those words, father and son turned around just in time to see Lit rush past them, stopping only when he was already in front of Nana. Now that he was close enough, Nana could notice that Lit's body was covered in cuts and bruises. Some were quite deep, but had been already roughly treated with light magic. They were still bleeding, but Lit's life was in no danger. What in the God's name has happened to you? As far as I know, the road to the village are safe. Nana did not miss the panic flashing in the expression of the two nobles in front of her. Lit was still bent downward, hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. Was it really necessary inflicting yourself all those wounds before coming here? Solus asked, still worried about Lit. No pain, no gain, Lit responded telepathically. Coming unscathed out of a sink or swim fight alone against 5 knights would have been too suspicious. This wounds serves two purposes. First, to make Nana angry enough to do what must be done. Second, and most important, to avoid any further investigation. If there's anything this mess proved is that too much attention is bad. The higher I get, the more dangers I will have to face. Right now, I have no backer. All that stands between my family and the baronet is Nana. I can't protect them all the times. It was a stroke of luck that they had to target me. In the future, I must be careful of not crossing the wrong people, at least until I get enough power or backing. I don't care about magic or wealth if I don't have anyone to share them with. No one will ever take away from me. Never. The whole conversation with Solus lasted barely a second. Still panting and wheezing, Lit told her about the ambush. When I was coming here, 5 horsemen tried to force me into giving up on my magic schooling. When I refused to submit, they tried to kill me. Thanks the gods, I managed to kill the leader before they got too close. With him dead, their formation went in disarray, and I managed to kill them before they killed me. Lit sniffed, covering his eyes with a hand, pretending to be fighting back tears. Gods, I don't know how I managed to do it. It's all a blur. Nana performed skillfully a series of hand signs before saying, Venire lacat. A warm spirit of light magic enveloped Lit's body. healing all his injuries. That's enough. Lit, I can easily imagine the rest. Nana caressed his head, trying to comfort him. You did your best to treat your wounds before rushing here to warn me against this scum noble. She raised her cane, pointing towards the baronet's face with an intimidating manner. Please, Lady Nerea, don't rush to judgment. Enough with your fake sycophancy. Nana was bursting with rage. Do you want me to believe that all your talk about respect and punctuality and the attack of the boy's life happening today at the same moment is just a sheer coincidence? How stupid do you think I am? Baronet Trahan knelt down, his hands on the floor, in submission. Please, Lady Nerea, believe in my good faith. I know nothing about it. The kid is still scared and traumatized. Maybe his memory about the assault is confused. Also, he doesn't have any proof. Don't take hasty decisions before considering all the facts. The sight of his father kneeling to a commoner shocked Ricker deeply, yet he kept enough of his cool to remember what was at stake. So he kneeled too, begging for mercy. Good faith, my wrinkly ass. I have met enough nobles to understand how your kind thinks and how cheaply you value a commoner's life. I think Nana stopped talking. Lit was tugging her arm repeatedly. She knew he was smart enough to understand that she was fighting for him. For interrupting her like that, Lit must have had an excellent reason. He was showing her 5 silver whistles, one of which had burnt marks. Nana took one and started examining it. She barely needed a second to recognize the Trahan family crest engraved on its top. Well done, Lit, she whispered. Even in the face of danger, never let your emotions cloud your judgment. That's the way of a true magician. She was kindly smiling at him, like a grandmother proud of her grandson's achievements. Then, always keeping her back at the Trahans, she quickly performed some complex hand signs before whispering, Ekiduruha. Nana's eyes briefly glowed black with dark energy. Ekidu was root magic for darkness magic, like Vinire for light magic or Infiro for fire magic. She was casting a dark spell. Lit couldn't wait to see its effect. At the same time, though, the way she used the spell threw him in confusion. Why taking the trouble of performing hand signs and using words? Nana knows silent magic. I've seen her do it already. Couldn't she just do it silently in front of them? I can't believe she's just using a complex spell that requires that much caution just for those weaklings. Nana turned around, poking father and son both with her cane. She had just hit them with her spell. Solace notified it. Everything had happened in an instant, without even releasing a magic spark. It wasn't for Solace Mana's sense, Lit would have missed it entirely. Enough with the charade. Do you want proof? Is this proof enough? She shoved a silver whistle in front of Baronet's face. That turned red, then white, and finally green. He had to use every ounce of self-control he had to stop himself from panicking and puking. Now, get out of my sight if anything ever happens to my apprentice or his family. Even if one of them breaks his fingernail, it's you that will pay the price. The two of them got back on their feet, running towards the stagecoach without saying a word. Lit was both shocked and disappointed by Nana's behavior. So much for her hatred towards Noble. Who would have thought that after everything she went through, she would still be so merciful? Damn it. Nana went to the bakery to talk to the coachman that was eating some pastries while waiting for his master. Hey kid! The man was actually in his mid-20s, around 1 meter and 77 centimeters tall. He had blonde hair and a kind, perfectly shaven face. What's your name? Andy, he replied while nibbling at a cream puff. Andy? Nana raised an eyebrow. Gods be my witness, it's a really strange name. Andy shrugged. It's just a nickname. Better than my real name though. Many people found Hasa Digai Boai too hard to pronounce. Nana was flabbergasted. Anyhow, what do you need me for, Lady Nana? You seem a nice man. So, here's a friendly advice. Bring your master home as fast as you can. Then, find yourself a new job. She winked. Andy dropped the cream puff like it was hot, deeply bowing to Nana before running to the stagecoach. Nana returned to her house, opening the door to let Lid go inside. And now, what? He was barely repressing his disappointment. Do we wait for their next move? Nana laughed heartily. Their next move? They will drop dead before arriving to their pompous home. What do you think that darkness spell was for? I just wanted to avoid making a fuss in front of the whole village. Lit suddenly felt very stupid. Well played. This will teach them a lesson. He could finally sigh with relief. Far from it, Nana said with a cold-iced tone. She went into her private quarters, quickly followed by Lit. Nana's house was really similar to Lit's, but the dining room was smaller, and instead of 3 bedrooms, there was just one. The other 2 rooms were occupied by a study room and alchemic lab. She went in the study room, opening one of her desk drawers with a key she wore around her neck. Nana then took out a wrapped cloth, revealing a silver amulet. It had a not big gemstone in its center with arcane glyphs engraved all over. Lit didn't need light vision to know it was a magical item. This is a communication amulet. Every member of the Mage Association gets one. Now, give me a minute to do a full report about Baronet Trahan's attempt on my disciple life. They hate when some small-time noble messes with us. Before I put this back into the drawer, their whole bloodline will be wiped out. That will teach all those damn nobles a lesson. Lit deeply bowed to Nana, inwardly apologizing for doubting her character. Master, your disciple awaits your command. The report was indeed brief. Once activated, the amulet generated a small 3D hologram of a middle-aged ballman, sitting behind a clean and orderly desk. All Nana had to do was to introduce her disciple, say the name of the noble, and the mage on their side had already started giving instruction. Nana gave nonetheless a short description of the facts, showing the silver whistle as proof. Lit could see from the man's expression that he could not care less about such minor details. He still took note of everything, even somehow scanning the whistles through the amulet. After everything was said and done, Nana gave Lit his first assignment. Start by reading The Basic of Magic. Is the book you tried to borrow 3 years ago. Lit nodded. Read it carefully. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me. In case there is a client, wait for me to finish. If there's no emergency, I'll answer you. Otherwise, you will have to wait. You can use my study. When you have finished with the basics, I'll give you your first Tier 1 magic book. Lit ran back in the waiting room, fetching his prize. After sitting behind the desk with the thick book in front of him, he could not avoid thinking back at all those years spent cramming during college. He was back being a student, a familiar and reassuring feeling. Lit pushed emotionalism aside and opened the book, reading it from the author forward. My name is Lokra Silverwing. I am known as the wisest sorceress of Griffon Kingdom, and also the only one of my generation to achieve the title of Magus. What the heck is a magus? Isn't it just a synonym for mage? Lit paused for a second, taking the mental note to ask about magicians' hierarchy. I want to dedicate this book to all my female readers in hope that they can make good use of it and unleash their superior potential. In a world scourged by wars waged by men, it's of the utmost importance for us women to keep our leading position in the magical field. Let our calm minds soothe the savage fury that dwells in their hearts. What? Lit cursed, jumping off the chair. He ran straight to Nana, the book still in hand, in dire need of explanation. Sorry to be the one to break it to you, but it's the truth, Nana chuckled. Like men are stronger physically, women are more apt towards magic, is the nature of things. Damn it, Lit inwardly screamed among soulless giggles. Does it mean that I start right on the back foot? What was he actually said? Yes, little imp, be in the Griffon Kingdom, the Gorgon's Empire, or the Blood Sand Desert tribes. Usually, women hold most of the key roles in the various mages association. Even I never expected to have a male disciple. Back when I attended the Magic Academy, 70% of the students were female. I don't think things have changed much. If you aim for the top spots, they'll be your first competition. Great. Lit felt dejected. He wasn't the kind of man to discriminate. He despised humans regardless of their gender. What dispirited him was the idea of being once again on the losing side of life. Not rich, not talented, not handsome. I even managed to be a fairer magical sex. Just splendid, he thought. There, Nana patted his head. Don't be depressed. History is full of very powerful male mages. It's the talent that matters the most, not the gender. One day you could even become a magus. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. That was my second question. What's a magus? Suprememagus, Chapter 28. True Magic. The magic community is like a separate society, and just like any society, it has a clear hierarchy. First, there is normal people. Anyone is capable of using pure magic, but their range barely reaches 2 meters and are incapable of executing any complex task. They are not even considered people. Most mages refer to them as cattle. Then comes those like you that can use all 6 elements, can perform complex tasks with magic, but lack a proper magical education. They are referred to as magico, males, or magica, female, and are the real grassroots of the magical community from which mages can expect a magically talented offspring. Even if it's considered uncommon, a magica can sometimes be accepted by a magic academy and become a full-fledged magician like it happened to me. A magico usually becomes a medicine man in a village or a city depending on his talent. A magico becoming a magician is even more uncommon, but far from rare. Terms like mage, witch, sorceress, warlock are just all different words that identify someone that managed to enroll in a magic academy and complete the 5-year course necessary to be recognized as a true member of the magic community. At that point, one has to follow just his ambitions. You can become the personal mage of a noble and you can enjoy life at court. Others choose to devote their whole life to study magic or create specific artifacts. As long as you don't do anything to contribute actively to the development of the kingdom or the mage association, you'll only remain just a mage. No matter how powerful you are, what you accomplish with your experiments. Remember, no mage can be forced to share his or her spells or discoveries in the magic field. Not even the king himself can openly violate this rule. But what you keep for yourself has no worth for society. Hence, it gives you no merits. Only by sharing your knowledge or by using it to perform tasks from which the kingdom or the magic association take great benefit, you can be elevated to the status of archmage. They are for the mages that what dukes and marquises are for the nobles. And finally, there is the magus. A magus is someone whose power is equal only to his outstanding merits towards the community and the knowledge he shared with the magical association. A magus usually ensures to those who come after him a deeper understanding of magic and the means to achieve better foundation than their predecessors. A magus is a king to the mages, a god to men. Very rarely there has been more than one. Whenever any country has 2 or more magi, it's considered to be its golden age. Everything becomes possibly. Leith was far from impressed. Basically, it's just a fancy title that some old fogey forces on you after milking you dry. I don't know if by becoming a magus, I would feel just sad or simply lose all my self-respect. You insolent whelp! Nana was outraged by such disrespect. Without Maggie like Locra and their legacies, people like me would never get the chance to pass the entrance exam of any academy, no matter how small or insignificant. It would remain a privilege for those with outstanding talent, or that come from noble or magic family. Simply by writing that book, she willingly sacrificed a great advantage she had over all the rest of her peers. Leith shook his head. I see it differently, Master. In my opinion, you do have an outstanding talent. If in the past even those gifted like you wouldn't be accepted, in the long term, this would have led the magical community to dwindle, if not to completely disappear. Being born in a wealthy or talent family only gives you more resources and schooling, but the talent is decided at birth. Hence, Locra must have written that book not out of the goodness of her heart, but to correct a dangerous flaw in the magical community. It's true that magic allows to beat quantity with quality, but there is still strength in numbers. Without people like you, maybe even like me, there wouldn't be enough new blood and magic would sooner or later disappear. This is the reason why I can't see her book as a gift. She needs us, and badly. Nana opened her mouth to rebuke Lid, but stopped halfway. She pondered a while before speaking again. Damn it, Lid, whatever your mother fed you with as a baby, I wish I had it too when I had your age. I never look at it from this perspective. Yet, I can already sense enough truth behind your words to not dismiss them as a child babble. She sighed deeply with regret. I wish I was so profound back in my days. I would have avoided so many stupid mistakes. Yeah, sure, Lee thought. A over 30 years old man that comes from Earth and is not able to see that much would be a complete idiot. Scholarship here or on Earth are the same. Either a way for the rich to get rid of some of their sense of guilt for being filthy rich or the manifestation of their fears. The fear of not having a doctor, a lawyer, or any professional help when they need it is just having an offspring would suffice for their needs. They would have closed the school centuries ago. The door of Nana's waiting room opened. The first client of the day had arrived. Time to make some money. Do you have any other question from the forward? She tried being sarcastic but was still dwelling on this word, so she lacked the proper tone. Only one. I may need to take notes. Is there anything I could use to write? But of course. After confirming that the woman and the child that just entered the waiting room simply needed a medical check, Nana asked them politely to wait for a minute or two. Nana and Lid got back to her study room where she gave him a big, thick book with a red hardcover. Its pages were completely blank. This will be your first grimoire. Treasure it dearly. Paper is rare and expensive by nature. It's sold by weight and is more precious than silver. Lit was stunned by such news. The book was 27 centimeters long, 17 centimeters large, and 3 centimeters thick. It was huge. Lit shuddered for the second time in his new life. I don't know what to say. I can't believe you would do such a thing for me. It must have costed you a fortune. I am deeply moved. A tear appeared on the back of his eyes. Nana laughed heartily. Oh, so wise yet so naive. You bet I wouldn't. Money doesn't grow on trees. If it weren't for me, a few pages would have sufficed. Little imp. The warmth in his heart died as quickly as it had appeared. Then who do I have to thank for it? Count Lark, who else? That noble is a magic enthusiast. He sent it to me as soon as he was informed of your apprenticeship. Now, more studying and less flapping your gums. You are here to learn magic, not to chat. Nana left in a hurry, hoping to avoid her waiting room getting clogged up with patients. Lid sat behind the desk and resumed reading. Most of the contents of Lorca's book were all news to him. He had discovered them by himself through countless trial and error experiments. He could only sigh in regret. If I only had this book as soon as I was born. I wonder how powerful I would be today. Lid, whenever would find something noteworthy, he would write it down in his grimoire. Lid could not trust his bad handwriting, so he would dip his finger into an inkwell and then use water magic to spread the ink on the page and then to dry it. The result was a whole page written with outstanding calligraphy, even copying illustration when necessary, in perfect English, all in just a second. Ah ha ha, the team wildly laughed. I don't need a secret code. I'm the only one that speaks English in this world. My secrets are safe with my grimoire. They would be safe either way. Don't forget my pocket dimension. Solus chimed in. One more layer of protection never hurts. There is no such thing as too careful. Lit found the section about fire, water, air, and earth quite bland. He already knew almost everything written in the book, but he read carefully every word. Nana allowed him to read only until lunchtime. Then he was forced to go back home and resume his previous routine, switching the hunting time from morning to afternoon. It took him 3 days to get to the juicy part. Lit was aware that being a self-taught, light and dark magic were his weakest subjects. They were the only two elements that didn't exist on Earth, after all. He spent a whole week on the light and darkness section, taking countless notes and finally understanding how shallow and raw was his mastery over those elements. Amazing, simply amazing. It never ceased to impress me how profound is Locra's understanding of light and darkness. Her description of the mana flow in the patient's body is just peerless. I would never have thought of that on my own. Only now I finally understand why she wrote about them in the same section. Light and darkness are not separate elements, but two sides of the same coin. Darkness is paramount importance for healing diseases and congenital conditions. Once I fully absorbed all this new knowledge, I may be able to cure Tista for good. If I really manage to do that, I will rethink my view about being a magus. Lit read that section again and again until he became certain to have not missed anything. His magic power hadn't increased much, but his comprehension was now on another level for all the 6 elements. Lit was sure he would be able to achieve even stronger foundations, also improving his spirit and fusion magic, but his confidence also arose new doubts. The more I learn, the less it makes sense. How is it possible that with all this knowledge in her hands, Nana didn't manage to cure Tista over the years? Why she needed both hand signs and magic word to kill Baronet Trahan and his son? A finger snap should have sufficed. Lit decided to postpone those questions until he had fully understood Locra's book. Maybe he was missing some key element, or maybe it wasn't as easy as it appeared. Nana was delighted learning that he had finished the whole book in just a week, and immediately gave him his first Tier 1 magic spellbook. Let's see if you are good at practicing magic as you are with its theory. Lit took the book from her hands, treating it like a precious gemstone that could easily break. He walked solemnly to his desk, opening the book full of anticipation. He would have never imagined to be disappointed to such extent. What is this? Is this how a spell book is supposed to look like? Wow, by my core, what is this? Solus cursed for the first time in her life. Both Lit and Solus were too flabbergasted to make any further comment, so they closed the book, reopened it again, discovering it was unchanged. They had expected for it to be filled with instruction about how to manipulate the mana flow in the mage body, how to better connect with the world energy to obtain spells whose powers was incomparable to those they already knew. Instead, all they found was an odd mix of a spelling book and a hand signs instruction manual, not to mention that they already knew all of those tier 1 spells, just with different names that Liz had invented over the time. Blasting sphere is just a fireball. Piercing eyes is just identical to my frost lance, if not worse. Leet did go back to the foreword, noticing that this book had not been written by a magus and was just a collection of the most common spells. By reading the instruction for the blasting sphere, Leet noticed how the author stressed out the importance of executing the signs in the proper order with precise movements. Even the magic word was split into syllables to help the student learn the correct pronunciation and accent. After skimming through the whole book, Leet couldn't find any mention on how to perform them with silence magic. Becoming more and more confused, Leet went to Nana for advice. I am sorry, Lit. I had forgot how frustrating and painful is going from the simple and easy silent chore magic to the much more complex real magic. Only tier 0 magic can be silently cast. All their superior tiers of magic requires both hand signs and proper spelling of the magic word. Lee's head was spinning so fast he had to sit down for a moment. This makes no sense at all, he thought. I use silent magic with my ice spears and fireballs all the time. I wouldn't be alive otherwise. Then a sudden thought erupted in his mind. Maybe I'm special after all. Maybe I use a different kind of magic because I came from Earth. Maybe I'm some sort of a chosen one. Leet was both scared and flattered at the idea. None of the above. Solo's word abruptly doused his enthusiasm. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Much appreciated. What's your explanation then? Leet could feel Solo's mind spinning so fast that it was hard for him to follow her reasoning. If my hypothesis is correct, then you, like Lokra, Silverwing, and all other past and present magus, are one of the few people in this world to actually use true magic. Suprememagus, Chapter 29, True Magic and Fake Magic. What do you mean with true magic? Leet said. At this point, it's still too early to tell. Of course, if you are too curious, you can look at my mind right now. But I don't know how helpful could it be. Leet merged his mind with Solace, discovering she wasn't exaggerating at all. Her mind was full of ifs and buts, constantly examining facts, revisiting memories, making one speculation after another before dismissing them. What can I do to help you? I need two things. First, all the books about history of magic you can find. Second, we need to get out of here and do some experiments. I'll explain everything later. Leet went to Nana asking her for help. Sure, I have a magic history book, but it's not such an interesting topic, so I only purchased one covering the last couple hundred years. Is that enough for you? Lead shook his head. Can you please contact Count Lark and ask him if I can borrow some more from him? You sure are an oddball. First you beg me to teach you magic. I never begged. It's you who offered to teach me, and I accepted. Nana pretended to not have heard anything and continued. And now that you get an opportunity to practice real magic, you want to bury yourself in history books? After pondering about what you told me and what Magus wrote, I understood that I need to understand the past to comprehend the present and plan for the future. Lid improvised, digging up an old family motto. Makes sense, sort of, Nana conceded. I'll contact Lark via the communication amulet and see what I can do. The Count has one too? Lid asked in surprise. It's not some sort of secret or anything. Nobles, merchants, soldiers, no matter your background, as long as you can afford the price, you can get yourself one. Lid thanked Nana before returning to the study room. The book was very detailed, recording both historical turning points and lore. Lid didn't know what they were looking for exactly, so he read carefully, skimming only the parts about conflicts between countries or magic associations. Instead, he focused on studying the life of influential mages, archmages, and magi. After spending a few hours researching the past, he had already found a recurring pattern in the rise of magi. Some were recognized as genius at an early age. Most of them had started being considered mediocre at best, never achieving noteworthy results until at some point their talent simply skyrocketed. It usually happened between the 30 and the 40 years of age, well past their supposed prime, when the magical community had pretty much forgotten about them. Of course, the author had no idea what happened to cause such a turnaround, so he just presented the theories most popular at the time. Too bad that those paragraphs resembled more a work of fiction than history reports. According to some rumors, Magus Elista had married in secret the god of magic, while others claimed that she had found a mystical amulet from a lost civilization that was able to grant her unlimited mana. The same had allegedly happened to Magus Morgana and Fregic, an obscure start followed by a sudden rise in power and glory, with no plausible explanation outside fairy tales and divine encounters. Could this be what Solus was looking for? Maybe what changed them wasn't some insane stroke of luck, but the discovery of true magic Solus mentioned before. Lid was about to close the book, having run out of Maggie, when Solus stopped him. Turn the page, please. Lid had no idea why, but did as instructed. By quickly reading through the page, he noticed it was about some disorders in a faraway place during which several low-ranked mages had died. Solus had him flipping every page until the book ended. It was already lunchtime, so Lid started walking back home. Did you find anything important? Yes, I think so. I just need us to perform some experiments to put my theory to test. If I am right, once you experience the difference between fake and true magic, you'll be able to understand my reasoning. I hope that once you do, you can help me fill the holes I am unable to explain. Lee's mind and heart were in turmoil. The road seemed to stretch endlessly in front of him. Even when he sat around the table together with his family, he was unable to hide his unpleasant feelings. Damn it, damn it. First my real origin, then spirit magic, fusion magic, and now this. How many secrets do I have to keep to protect myself from this world, to protect my family from me? Couldn't I just find a magical hammer or something granting me godlike powers? Or maybe just be handpicked by an ancient magician to become the champion of order just by speaking one frigging word? Why does everything have to be so complicated? I really love my family, except for Tryon, but I can be honest with them. At this rate, I will never have friends, a lover, anything. I will be forced to spend my life alone with my secrets. No, not alone. Solo's voice resounded in his mind, full of kindness and affection. The tower core around Lid's neck pulsed, releasing gentle waves of mana that enveloped his body like a warm embrace. Lid's mood lightened a bit, allowing him to have a pleasant meal and conversation with his family, telling each other the respective day's work. After doing the dishes, he was finally able to leave home and go to the Tron Woods. Lid had his own special glade deep in the woods, a place spacious enough to train his magical skills without endangering trees or wildlife, away from prying eyes. Lid and Solus double-checked their surroundings for intruders or magical beasts. Finding none, Lid could finally take out his grimoire from the pocket dimension and start memorizing the simplest Tier 1 spell he had found in Nana's book. We didn't need something powerful or complex for our experiments, only something to compare with your own spells. The faster you master it, the soon we'll have our answers, Solus explained. The spell was Piercing Eyes, a watered-down version of the Ice Spear spell that Lid used against huge opponents like the Rai or the Boars. Its magic word was Jaruna Lituch, with accent on the U for Jaruna and the I for the Lituch. He had signs required to start with the index's fingers touching themselves before pulling them away, drawing in the air a 7 with the right index, while the left one had to execute mirrored movements at the same time. After that, the left hand had to stop while the right index had to rotate, drawing a forced circle before pointing at the target. The expected result was conjuring and shooting a giant ice shard against an enemy. Damn it. And this is a simple one. So much effort for so little return. At his first try, Lid managed to conjure some kind of giant fork that traveled forward for a couple of meters before crashing on the ground. You did not aspirate the H, Solus remarked. Then it came a boomerang that almost chopped his head off. It's Lituch, not lituch. After a series of non-life-threatening failures, Lid had to admit he wasn't able to learn both the pronunciation of magic word and the hand signs at the same time. So he had to sit down and recite the spell until he got it right. After that, he had to face head on his poor hand-eye coordination. That's not even a 7, more like a 1. Do the second line steeper. You are supposed to draw a circle, not an egg. Will you stop your left hand during the last movement, please? Otherwise, we never see the end of it. Failure after failure, Solus kept nagging in Lid's mind, correcting the many mistakes he did during each try. If you are so good, why don't you try it yourself? Lid rebutted, bursting with frustration. Sorry, I do not have a body. Not to mention, I cannot perform any spells unless you first know how to do it. And you give me the permission for it. It was a long afternoon for Lid, full of cursing, sweating, and casting, not necessarily in that order, before he finally managed to get piercing eyes right. He kept repeating the spell until it became a second nature to him. I can't believe I had to work so hard for the simplest spell. I have barely an hour before the sunset. Hey Solus, is it enough time? Or do we wrap things up for today and go back home? It's more than enough. Tell me, how does it feel using magic that way? To be honest, it does not feel at all. I'm so focused on all that crap that I can barely breathe. Solus mentally nodded. Perfect. Now, cast your ice spear spell, shooting only one spear. Lid was so tired to need to actually use the magic word. Joran. With a flick of the wrist, Lid conjured a slender, sharp-eyed javelin that struck the nearest tree, faster and harder than the piercing eyes. Now focus. How did you do it? Lid couldn't understand all those apparently stupid questions, but he trusted Solus enough to know she wasn't just trying to piss him off. Like usual, first I mentally visualized the effect of my spell. Things like the shape of the spear, the trajectory, etc. Then I used my manacore to generate enough mana to support my spell, taking in account the size of the spear I wanted to conjure and how strong I wanted it to strike. Finally, I projected my mana on the outside, mixing it with the world's energy to have access to the water element, and voila! Okay, now use piercing eyes again. This time do it slowly. Try to feel how your mana flows according to the spell. Lid needed a few tries before succeeding in the task. Solus has assigned him. The result was astonishing. What the heck? As soon as I start with the hand signs, a portion of my mana leaves my body. And there is more. The magic word determines how my mana interacts with the world energy, in this case the water element, while also giving the spell its shape and size. Lid could tell that if Solus had a face, now she would have a smug grin from ear to ear. You're almost at the finishing line. Do piercing eyes again, but try making the eyes shard bigger. I can't. Lit was flabbergasted. If I try adding more mana, the spell becomes unstable and dissipates. Solus asked him to try generating a second ice shard to make the single shard faster and finally to alter its trajectory right after it materialized. The answer was always the same. I can't. The whole spell is set in stone. Once I learn the proper signs and pronunciation, I become nothing more than a mana source and a target system. My manacore and imagination play no part in this type of spell casting. Lit suddenly reached enlightenment. And that's why you consider it fake magic. Calling it fake is a little extreme, but for simplicity's sake, let's call it that. Lit could sense Solus brimming with pride. Now I can finally share my theory with you. First of all, I'd like you to think back about all the steps necessary for you to use true magic. Solus paused for a moment, giving Lit time enough to think. What's your point? My point is that what you so casually dismiss as usual is actually a really complex feat, much harder than fake magic. Sorry, I still can't follow you. Solus' mind snorted in frustration. True magic isn't as simple as you make it out to be. It requires to be aware of your own mana core and to be able to generate the right amount of mana for each and any spell. Too much mana and it would backfire on you. Too little and it would not succeed. It also requires to be able to project your mana outwards, reaching out to the world energy by yourself. I doubt even Nana would be able to do that. Lit found that last part hard to believe. When you put it that way, sure, it's not an easy feat, but is what everyone does with your magic. What's the difference between true and your magic? Why no one else uses it? The difference is the amount of mana required. Your magic needs little mana, so you can use it even without activating your mana core, while true magic may require great amount of mana according to what are you trying to accomplish. Seeing as Lit was struggling, Solus started to use a monotone lecturing tone. Your magic is a very foundation for magic. It teaches you everything you need except how to activate the mana core. Fake magic is like a crutch, a foolproof magic for dummies spellcasting method. Only need to learn a few words and gestures and it does everything by itself as long as you have enough mana. My hypothesis is that chore and fake magic are taught in this order as a training course towards true magic, but only few, like the mage, understand that fake magic is not about finger movements and spelling words. It's about perceiving the mana flow and learning how to control it. Your breathing exercise are a crutch as well, but a good one since they help you access the mana core, making you aware of the mana flow. Fake magic instead is a bad one since it makes its users too reliant on its power. Most fake magic users are so obsessed by details like hand signs and pronunciation that live their whole lives without noticing what lies beyond. Fake mages, especially those with great talent, become so complacent, being able to do what no one else can, that they never stop for a moment to ask themselves why. It's kind of ironic. Lit was astonished. Everything made perfect sense. But if you had all this figured out, why didn't you tell me? What are those holes in your theory that you mentioned earlier? Celeste was embarrassed, but replied nonetheless, because I can answer some key points of my own theory. If I am right, why is fake magic the only one available for everyone? Why do mages kill whoever tries spreading it to the whole world? Say what? Solus merged their minds, showing to Lid all the things she had noticed reading the history book. How so many theorists and rising mages had all died in accidents or mysterious circumstances, often right after announcing to the magical community a groundbreaking discovery. Others, instead, would be dismissed as frauds before going mad and disappear. Lit could only laugh his heart out. Oh my, Solus, you are so smart and yet so naive in the ways of mankind. The answer is really simple. Do you know why back on Earth we have traffic jams? Because everyone could get a car. Would you really let any madman, any naive fool, get his hands on this kind of power? Fake magic is a mean to control the masses. It's not the final test like you think. After one discovers true magic, the final test is proving to be smart enough to silently join the club and reap the benefits. And if you don't like the club rules, the only way out is death. Suprememagus, Chapter 30. True Magic and Fake Magic, Part 2. When they finished comparing notes about Solus' explanation for true magic, it was already late. Lid had to rush to get out of the woods before it became too dark. He wasn't afraid of the nighttime predators. His mother, Elena, though, was another story. If I come back too late, I'll get grounded for weeks. Darn it all, I hate curfew so much. He did not want to come back home empty-handed, so he took out of the pocket dimension a couple of fat blinkers he had saved for moments like this. The next day, Nana informed Lid that the Count had agreed to help and that some of his best books were on their way. Lid was forced to pretend being still engrossed in Nana's history book. It was too big to be finished in one go. He spent the day abridging all the Tier 1 spells on his grimoire, keeping only the name, hand signs, and pronunciation instruction and a short description for each spell. I don't need to waste precious pages on this crap. I can fake out the hand signs by moving my hands fast, but I still need to remember each new magic word when I pretend to use fake magic. Also, if Nana wants to put me to test, I need to show her my proficiency. Sigh. All this brainless memorizing will drive me crazy. The silver lining is that by learning this stuff, I can predict an enemy spell and counter it if necessary. More than once, Lid found himself wishing Solus could move his body at will. She had a much better memory and it would save him a lot of time and effort. The only spell that was really eager to try was the air magic floating body. With this incantation, one could make float in midair anything or anyone weighing less than 100 kilograms. It had many uses, like breaking a freed fall, moving a severely injured patient without bumps, or moving without leaving traces, and making noises while hunting or scouting. This was something that Lid had attempted many times on his own, but with no success. He could easily make others float with spirit magic, but not himself. It was really hard balancing his whole body while focusing on the spell. The same could be said about using air magic instead of spirit magic. A minor mistake would make him float upside down or make him spin like in a washing machine. Lid never managed to float properly, let alone moving. If Solus is right and fake magic is a training course, I can use this floating body to learn how to float for good. Then the most natural step is evolving it into a fight spell. I can't wait to soar through the skies like my childhood heroes. Right after lunch, Lid went back into the woods and started practicing. Floating body's magic word was Brezarilak, so he had no problems with the pronunciation. The hand signs instead were quite complicated. Having learned from his mistakes, Lid first made sure he got the magic word right before moving to the hand signs. He took it slow and easy. He didn't need to learn how fast to cast it, only to learn from the spell how to distribute the energy. After only a few tries, Lid managed to cast the floating body properly. It was an odd feeling, much different from what he had expected. To float, it did not require a single strong updraft, but hundreds of them at the same time, each one pushing upwards with the same force to keep the balance in check. This is much worse than I have anticipated. No wonder I always failed in the past. Now, according to the book, floating body makes me weightless, standing in place. To move, I need either external support or air magic. Lid started to generate weak winds, moving around like a toy drone. This feels great. This spell has countless application. I wonder why it's just a tier 1 despite being so elaborate. Because it lasts only 1 minute. Solus reminded him while it was already falling to the ground. After experimenting with the floating body a few times, Lid used his own mana flow to replicate the spell. Soon it became apparent that he wouldn't be able to do it in a single afternoon. True magic, after all, was really more difficult than its fake counterpart. Angry and frustrated, Lid started grumbling nonstop. It's all so annoying having to learn 2 kinds of magic for every damn spell. I'm telling you, Solus, I have seriously considered using floating body instead. But if I'm stupid enough to do so, then I will be forced to learn all its upper tier versions, and who knows at what step lies actual flight. This way instead, once I get solid foundations, everything else should come easy. Or at least I hope so. Lid spent all day and night practicing his new spell, levitation. But when morning came, he had yet to succeed. The following day, a small crate of books was delivered to Nana's house, and she promptly handed it to Lid. If they were mine, I would never allow you to bring them out of my house. But the Count explicitly told me you are free to bring them home as you see fit. Lark is a very generous man. Don't abuse his trust. At first, Lid was really pissed off. He had completely forgot about his plea for help. And now he was flooded with useless books that he had to pretend to read. After 2 whole days as shut in, His body was craving for some action. But then he noticed that there weren't that many history books. Most of them were biographies and autobiographies of past and present prominent mages, archmages, and magi. He finally had at hand the information he needed about how much talent he could reveal safely. Lead could finally see a light at the end of one of the many tunnels he was stuck in. So far, his apprenticeship had only added more problems to his life. Getting lucky for once made him feel really good. He took note in his grimoire of all the feats his role models accomplished and at what age they managed to do it. Then it came the most serious part, deciding how far to push his act. I'm of a humble origins and with no backer. Mimicking a magus is like counting debt. If even revealing less talent than Nana brought a noble to try to kill me, showing so much skill would put me on the hit list of all the major families. Agreed, Solus chimed in. The best choice is to keep being below Nana's talent. If Count Lars starts protecting you, you can ramp up to her level. A male mage of that skill would definitely be noteworthy. From then, it's better to adjust your power talent based on how things develop. My thoughts exactly, Lid nodded. During the following weeks, while at Nana's house, Lid and Solo split the task at hand. Lid crammed all the Tier 1 spells while Solus would read the Count's books and take note of every relevant detail. Lid gave her control over both spirit and water magic, making her possible to flip books and write on appendings on the grimoire. During the afternoon instead, they would try to make levitation work. Little by little they were working out all the problems, sometimes even improving floating bodies' foundation. Lid completed levitation after 1 month of hard work, and by that time he had also already mastered all the Tier 1 spells. But he was forced to wait. According to the Count's book, that was a feat worthy of a future archmage. So he had to wait for another half a month before revealing to Nana the fruits of his endeavors. She was truly impressed by Lid's skill and determination. Nana had told him that back then, in the days, she had needed less than a month to memorize all the books. And despite Lid being of a lesser talent, he had managed to accomplish the same result with just 2 weeks of delay. Nana had expected that it would take him no less than 2 whole months. Nana offered him to help her during busy hours, and Lid gladly accepted. Until completing the levitation, he had not hunted for over a month. Not only the reserve of the game he kept in the pocket dimension was almost depleted, but that huge break had also costed him a lot of money. Lid needed to make up for the lost time. Officially, he only knew 2 Tier 1 light spells, Venire Ratu, the illness injury detecting spell, and Venire Dan, a basic healing spell capable to treat coughs, light colds, and not too deep cuts. Hence, most of the times he would only get the diagnosis fee since it would be Nana treating the patients. He could only get to heal minor injury. Yet, profits weren't that bad. Nana's business had deep roots. People from all the neighboring villages would come to seek her aid. By spending more time in the front office, they discovered that Nana was so much more than a healer for the people of Lutia. She was also their protector and the strongest law enforcer. Simply by living there, most bandits would avoid the village, and those who were brave enough to attack would quickly meet their maker before doing any real damage. Nana was also the shield for all the local merchants and population. No foreigner merchant, young master, or young mistress could bully the people of Lutia without incurring her wrath. Sometimes she would be called even to put an end to a drunken brawl. Lyd found hard to believe she had such disposition towards the people she served, always standing ready to intervene whenever was necessary. One day, after Nana taught a lesson to a young noble and his bodyguards, believing that he could forcibly take any maiden that suited his taste, Lyd decided to find out the truth. The old hag had already proven that she cared about money more than everything. Lyd had fallen for her kind act more than once, so he wanted to know what her real angle was. Being rude to his mentor was definitely a bad idea, so he went with a subtler approach. Master, I really don't know how to express my admiration for you. Taking care of the safety of the village, basically all by yourself, and asking nothing in return. It's really impressive of you. Nana laughed out loud, sounding ominous like the plumber back on Earth that once Lyd had been forced to call during a national holiday. You really are hilarious, kid. Sometimes you are so wise, I almost forget you are just 6 years old. But whenever you come out with this nonsense, you really look like a naive child. Of course I get something in return. Have you ever wondered why my treatments are so expensive?